Great Muslim personalities of 13th century of Christian era particularly saw emergence of many big personalities in the world, particularly in the Muslim world, who had played important role in shaping the world. Some of these big personalities are explained in brief in following paragraphs. Saladin's Ayyubid dynasty, late 12th, early 13th. While Saladin himself died in 1193, his legacy and family, the Ayyubids, continued to rule Egypt, Syria, and parts of the Jazira in the early part of the century. Figures like his brother al-Adil, and his nephew al-Kamil, who negotiated with Emperor Frederick II during the Sixth Crusade, were major players. Sultan al-Nasir Muhammad of the Mamluk Sultanate, are 1293 to 1341 with interruptions. A truly pivotal figure, he was the definitive ruler of the Mamluk Empire in Egypt and Syria. His long reign saw the consolidation of Mamluk power, the final expulsion of the Crusader states from the Levant, and the repeated repulsion of the Ilkhanate Mongols, making the Mamluks the protectors of the Islamic heartlands. Baybars al-Bundukdari, are 1260-1277. The Mamluk Sultan, who set the stage for al-Nasir's success. A former slave soldier, he was the brilliant general who led the Mamluk vanguard at the Battle of Ain Jalut, 1260, which decisively halted the Mongol advance into Egypt. He then systematically dismantled the remaining Crusader strongholds. Jalal-ud-Din Khwarazm Shah, d. 1231. A tragic but heroic figure. He led a desperate and ultimately failed resistance against the Mongol invasion, led by Genghis Khan, fighting a long guerrilla war across Persia and the Caucasus. His defiance, though futile, became legendary. The founders of the Delhi Sultanate in India. In South Asia, the slave dynasty, Mamluk dynasty, was consolidating Muslim rule. Sultan Iltutmish, r. 1211-1236, was a key figure who saved the Delhi Sultanate from both internal rebellion and the Mongol threat, making it a major center of Islamic power. 2. Scholars, theologians, and scientists. This was a golden age for Islamic scholarship, producing some of the most influential thinkers in history. Ibn al-Arabi, 1165-1240. One of the most profound and influential mystical thinkers in Islam. Known as al-Sheikh al-Akbar, the greatest master, he spent the later part of his life in Damascus. His works on the oneness of being, Wahdat al-Wujud, shaped the course of Sufism for centuries to come. Muhammad ibn Ahmad ibn Rushd, Averroes, 1126-1198. While he died at the very beginning of the century, 1198, his immense influence was felt throughout the 13th century, especially in Europe. His commentaries on Aristotle were foundational to medieval European scholasticism, Aquinas, Siger of Brabant, and the European Renaissance. Jalal ad-Din Muhammad Rumi, 1207-1273, perhaps the most famous Sufi poet in the world. A Persian mystic. His encounter with the dervish Shamsi Tabrizi transformed him. He founded the Mevlevi order, the whirling dervishes, and composed the Masnavi, a 6-volume spiritual epic often called the Quran in Persian. Ibn al-Nafis, 1213-1288, an Arab physician and polymath who made a groundbreaking discovery. He was the first to describe the pulmonary circulation of the blood, correctly explaining how blood flows from the right to the left ventricle via the lungs, centuries before it was rediscovered in Europe. Nasir al-Din al-Tusi, 1201-1274. A brilliant Persian polymath, astronomer, biologist, chemist, mathematician, and philosopher. Captured by the Mongols, he persuaded Hulagu Khan to build the Maragay Observatory, one of the most advanced scientific institutions of its time. His astronomical models influenced Copernicus centuries later. Ibn Taymiyyah, 1263-1328, N. Immensely influential and controversial Hanbali scholar who lived in Mamluk-era Damascus. He was a fierce reformer who called for a return to the Quran and Sunnah and vigorously opposed theological innovations, bid'ah, Sufi practices, and the Mongol Ilkhans, even after their conversion, as he deemed their law un-Islamic. His writings are a primary inspiration for modern Islamic reformist and fundamentalist movements. Farid ud-Din Attar, 1145 to 1221. Another Persian Sufi poet who died early in the century, but whose influence was immense. His masterpiece, The Conference of the Birds, is a classic of Sufi literature that deeply influenced Rumi. Moinuddin Chishti, F41-1236, the founder of the Chishti order in the Indian subcontinent. He settled in Ajmer, India, and his message of love, tolerance, and openness to Hindu devotees made Sufism a major force in South Asia. His shrine in Ajmer remains one of the most important pilgrimage sites in India. Amir Khusrau, 1253-1325 CE. Amir Khusrau was a towering figure in Indian culture during the Delhi Sultanate period. He lived in the 13th and early 14th centuries. His life spanned the reign of several sultans of Delhi, from the Ghulam dynasty to the Tughlaq dynasty. Historical context. This was a period of consolidation for Muslim rule in North India, centered in Delhi. Khusrau was a witness to the Mongol incursions into India, which were repelled by the sultans he served. Who he was. He was a Sufi poet, musician, scholar, and courtier. He was a disciple of the great Chishti Sufi saint, Nizamuddin Auliya. Legacy. He is revered as the father of Qawwali and is credited with inventing the sitar and the tabla. He wrote prolifically in Persian, the language of the court, and Hindavi, an early form of Hindi Urdu, creating a rich body of poetry that includes riddles, ghazals, and historical masnavis. He is often called Tuti-e-Hind, the parrot of India. Ahmad al-Buni, Dias 1225 CE. His book Shams al-Ma'arif, the authorship and date of the famous esoteric text Shams al-Ma'arif, the Sun of Knowledge, are more complex. Author. The book is attributed to Ahmad ibn Ali al-Buni, Ahmad al-Buni. Time period. He lived and died in the 13th century, most likely around 1225 CE. Historical context. Al-Buni was born in Bone, modern Annaba, Algeria, and spent much of his life in Egypt. This was the time of the Ayyubid dynasty, founded by Saladin, a period of great intellectual and religious activity in the region. The book and its nature. Shams al-Ma'arif is arguably the most famous and influential grimoire, a textbook of magic, in the Islamic world. It deals with esoteric sciences, ulum al-khafiyya, talismans and their creation letristism, ilm al-huruf. The science of the mystical properties of letters and numbers, magic squares, and spiritual remedies. Important caveat. The text evolved over time. Scholars believe the core was written by al-Buni, but the version most widely circulated today, often called Shams al-Ma'arif al-Kubra, is a much larger, later compilation that includes material added by other authors over the subsequent centuries.